a cultural detail I just learned in preparation for preaching about this catch of fish, which is Luke chapter 5, verses 1 through 11, from a scholar, Bible scholar and Catholic teacher, Dr. Tim Gray, who works for an organization called the Augustine Institute. And he explained that this little note of Simon and the others fishing all night. I have to admit, I never really thought about that. But he says that, particularly then in the ancient Mediterranean, two reasons, I should say, he says, that the fishermen, that they would work at night. One was the water would be colder, and so the fish, like lots of other animals, would tend to cluster together, I guess for shared fishly warmth, right? So the fish would be, in a school of fish, they would be closer together because the water was colder at night. And secondly, because it was dark, the nets would be more disguised. Like the fish wouldn't see or detect the motion even of the nets because it was dark. And so Simon Peter, and the others, that being the case, they know what they were doing. So then when Jesus comes and says, try again, now it's daylight, and, presumably the water is warmer and there's more light and everything else. But Jesus says to do that even though this is not his profession. And Simon Peter, between whatever he might have known about Jesus, this upcoming rabbi, and then what we would understand as the work of the Holy Spirit prompting him to cooperate, you might say, or to defer to what Jesus asked him to do. And then Jesus, in his divinity, by the power and working of the Holy Spirit, brings about this great catch of fish. Dr. Gray gives this theme that I want to give credit to him of looking at this gospel passage, which is Luke chapter 5, verses 1 through 11, and then also the first reading, Isaiah chapter 6, various verses at the beginning, and the Psalm 138, the responsorial psalm. He brings about, and I suggest and pass on to you, this theme of there's our work and there's God's work. And so, for instance, with Peter and the other fishermen, particularly Simon Peter, he still had to do the work of taking his boat out to where Jesus said to go and casting the nets again. But it was God's work to bring about the miraculous number of fish that he caught. In this Isaiah, it's Isaiah's work, so to speak, to acknowledge God's greatness and to put himself in God's presence. But then it's God's work symbolized by this image of one of the seraphim, one of the spiritual beings in this vision, bringing this ember and touching it to his lips, and then bringing about his cleansing and freedom, greater freedom from sin. For us as Christians, we can transpose that image to saying us becoming more like Jesus, giving ourselves over. So our work is to acknowledge that we need God and we need God's work. Our work brought about symbolized in the responsorial psalm, again, Psalm 138, speaks of the psalmist saying, when I called to God, you answered me, you built up strength within me. And so that's God's work, is building up strength within us, spiritual, emotional, relational, psychological strength. But it's our work to call on him, to ask for it, and to be instruments and agents of God building up strength within one another. Going back to this image of the fish and the reason that they would have been fishing at night, the men, that the water is cold and it's dark, and then the fish don't see this thing that, the net coming at them. We might see ourselves like that in troubled times. A coldness, so to speak, settling on culture and society, and maybe even cold-heartedness. And so for us to band together, to be closer together to one another, and the darkness, and things coming at us that we don't expect, like these nets coming at the fish and they don't expect and see it, things being thrown at us, circumstances. And so let us be then, as Jesus, calling the apostles to follow him in this image of catching humans, that the Lord might want to use us to strengthen others, to catch them up in the positive way, in the net of God's family, in the net of God's grace. And we need the Lord to build up strength within us to do that. One phrase you'll hear throughout Mass, various of the texts for Mass with the different options that we have is, and also is, in other places too, is the power and working of the Holy Spirit. That is the power of God. That is the working of God to build up strength within us and then to use us to help others build up their strength, spiritual strength, emotional strength, psychological strength, and the like. The power and working of the Holy Spirit, the grace and presence of the Holy Spirit. As many parishioners know, I hope all parishioners know, at least those of you who come to Mass regularly or get our emails, we have been pivoting toward a focus on the work of the Holy Spirit, calling out to the Holy Spirit to help us have a better, deeper, stronger, closer relationship with the Holy Spirit through the faith formation video series called The Wild Goose, that all parishioners know this who've come to Mass, but for visitors who are new, I'll explain that wild goose is an ancient Celtic image for the Holy Spirit. That's why the people who put this series together chose that, because they wanted to capture this sense of wildness and power and unpredictability of the Holy Spirit. And we started it last fall. Those of us who watched it last fall, many are finishing up the series now, but we're going to start it again in a couple of weeks, the Wild Goose series. And so I've asked one of our parishioners, who's also on the Pastoral Council, and one of my parish leadership team, Patty, who had been, and still is, in this first round of the Wild Goose series, to give you all a little bit of a taste of what it's done for her. So I invite you up, Patty, to share.
As Father Chuck has mentioned, I was in the first round of the Holy Spirit with the Wild Goose series, and I can tell you it was extremely impactful. I think we went into it, I don't want to say frivolously, but I just not really thinking that it was going to be this intense and impactful on each of our lives. And I talked to other people in my group, and they all said, wow. It really was. It was just different. And so I want to say that if you are thinking, or you might be thinking, that you want to renew or enhance your relationship with the Holy Spirit, then this is the series to take, because it will happen for you in various ways. We all experienced it in various ways. You're going to learn about the deep love that the Holy Spirit has for each of us. That's what kind of hit me the most, that this Holy Spirit has such a deep love for us, and we don't tap into that as much as we should. So the whole series will bring you into this love that you have that's available for you. And it builds on a culture of prayer that it inspires in all of us. It's a whole flow of this prayerfulness that we should have. It was a series of videos and conversations, and through those videos and conversations, I came to realize how real and present the Holy Spirit is. We say the Holy Spirit, but this is real and present, and it's in all of our lives. And if we choose to tap into it, you will have a real awakening. So I also came to realize that the Holy Spirit and developing of the Holy Spirit is a very personal journey for each of us. We all had different moments of aha moments, but the Wild Goose series gives you a beautiful way to develop that. So I hope that there's going to be a second round coming, and I hope that you will be able to participate in that, because you will come out just full of love and awe, and it will be a good thing. So thank you very much, and I feel that your time will be well spent if you do this. At least it was for me. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
And so there's information in the bulletin and also sign-up sheets on the back table in the lobby gathering space. The new sessions will start on Thursday the 20th and Friday the 21st. The Thursday sessions will be at 1 p.m. and then the Friday sessions will be at 7 p.m. We're trying to, make space for those of you who are retired and so want to still relax in the morning, but get here by 1 o'clock, say in the afternoon. And then 7 p.m. is probably for anybody, particularly for those of you who are still working and can't get here during the day. Part of the series will give you an opportunity, if you would to choose, to have a particular time of praying for a new working of the Holy Spirit in your life, welcoming in the Holy Spirit, perhaps for the first time, or renewing, asking God, the Father, and Jesus to pour their Holy Spirit into your life in some new way. And then also there's just the cumulative grace, you might say, of various aspects and facets of how the Holy Spirit interacts with us individually and as a community of faith. Last thing I want to say is, of course, there are many ways to grow in our faith, but this is one particular way that will be, can be, should be, will be a blessing for each individual who participates, but also as any one of us grows in our faith, it enriches and strengthens the whole community, the whole parish. And so you contribute to the spiritual life of the parish as much as you do to your own spiritual growth by participation in this and then in other faith formation and fellowship opportunities that the parish will have. So please consider it. Calling on God to build up strength within you, and in this particular way, through the grace and working of the Wild Goose, the Holy Spirit.